CDL Practice Test, California, Air Brake, Part 7. Question number 165. What is the best way to test your vehicle's low air pressure warning signal? A. Pump the brakes while your vehicle is fully on. B. Pump the brakes until the air pressure drops below 30 C. C. Manually let the air out of your brakes and see if the signal comes on. D. With the engine off, step on and off the brake pedal to lower the air pressure below 60 C. The correct answer is D. With the engine off, step on and off the brake pedal to lower the air pressure below 60 C. Explanation. The best way to test the low air pressure warning signal is to turn off the engine of your vehicle, while leaving the electric power on, then step on and off the brake pedal. The low pressure warning signal should come on when the pressure falls below 60 C. You should never need to get down to 30 C. Question number 166. Checking the air compressor drive belt should be done during what step of the basic 7-step inspection procedure? A. Step 1. Do vehicle overview. B. Step 7. Start engine and check brake system. C. Step 5. Do walk around inspection. D. Step 2. Check engine compartment. The correct answer is D. Step 2. Check engine compartment. Explanation. The condition and tightness of the belt should be checked when checking the other belts. This falls under Step 2. Check engine compartment. Question number 167. Air pressure should build up in a single air system within A. 15 minutes. B. 12 minutes. C. 3 minutes. The correct answer is C. 3 minutes. Explanation. In single air systems, air pressure should build from approximately 50 to 90 C within 3 minutes. Question number 168. What does the supply pressure gauge indicate? A. The amount of pressure in the braking system. B. The amount of pressure needed in the air tanks. C. The amount of pressure the air tanks are intended to hold. D. The amount of pressure in the air tanks. The correct answer is D. The amount of pressure in the air tanks. Explanation. The supply pressure gauge is used for measuring the amount of pressure left in the air tanks. Question number 169. In what instances should you not use the parking brakes when parking? A. When the emergency brake is turned on. B. Always use the parking brakes when parking. C. If you are on level ground. D. If the brakes are very hot or very wet in freezing temperatures. The correct answer is D. If the brakes are very hot or very wet in freezing temperatures. Explanation. Parking brakes can be damaged if used while they are very hot. If they are used while wet in freezing conditions, they can freeze, causing you to not be able to move your vehicle. Question number 170. Typically, the air compressor should start pumping at about A. 125 C. B. 100 C. C. 150 C. The correct answer is B. 100C. Explanation. Typically, the air compressor will start pumping around 100C and stop at about 125C. Check the manufacturer's specifications for the exact values. Question number 171. If using spring brakes when hauling a heavy load, a complete stop will A. be impossible, B. take a short amount of time, C. take a long time. The correct answer is here, C. take a long time. Explanation. Spring brakes do not work on all axles. If your vehicle's spring brakes activate due to low pressure in an air brake system, your vehicle will need a longer distance to stop than usual, especially if you are carrying a heavy load. Question number 172. A safety valve is said to open at pounds per square inch. C. A. 100. B. 200. C. 150. The correct answer is here, C. 150. Explanation. The safety valve protects air tanks and the rest of an air brake system from accumulating too much air pressure. The safety valve is usually set to open at 150 C. Question number 173. Air storage tanks, A. are not allowed on a vehicle, B. should be drained of excess air after every trip, C. hold compressed air for the brakes. The correct answer is here, C. hold compressed air for the brakes. Explanation. In an air brake system, the air storage tanks hold compressed air to be used by the brakes. The number and size of air tanks varies among vehicles. Question number 174. What should be done when the low air pressure warning buzzer and warning light first come on? A. let the vehicle coast until the emergency braking system safely brings it to a stop. B. immediately use the emergency braking system. C. continue to the nearest convenient stopping point as the service braking system will retain enough functionality to drive safely for a short time. D. safely bring the vehicle to a stop while the service brakes are still functional. The correct answer is here, D. safely bring the vehicle to a stop while the service brakes are still functional. Explanation. As soon as the warning light and buzzer come on, it is essential to safely stop the vehicle as it is not guaranteed that the emergency braking system will be able to stop the vehicle. Question number 175. Applying the brakes as hard as you can, without locking the wheels, is called A. stab braking, B. impact braking, C. anti-lock braking, D. controlled braking. The correct answer is here, D. controlled braking. Explanation. When a person presses down on the brake pedal as hard as they can without locking the wheels, it is called controlled braking. Question number 176. In controlled braking, you, A. can turn sharply, B. lock the wheels for short periods of time, C. brake in a straight line. The correct answer is here, C. brake in a straight line. Explanation. In controlled braking, You brake as hard as you can without locking the wheels. As you do this, keep your vehicle going relatively straight. Question number 177. On a long or steep downgrade, once you have reached your safe speed, brake until you are traveling A. 10 miles per hour slower, B. 15 miles per hour slower, C. 5 miles per hour slower. The correct answer is here, C. 5 miles per hour slower. Explanation. On a steep downgrade, don't keep applying your brakes continuously because this might cause them to fade, become less effective. Instead, apply your brakes sparingly as a supplement to engine braking. Select a safe speed. Let your vehicle reach this speed. Brake gently until you are going 5 miles per hour slower. Then let your speed increase back to the safe speed. Keep varying your speed up and down this way. Question number 178. If you need to stop quickly and your vehicle lacks anti-lock brakes, you can use A. The controlled braking method, B. The stab braking method, C. Either A or B. The correct answer is here, C. Either A or B. Explanation. If you need to stop quickly, use either the controlled braking method or the stab braking method. However, if your vehicle has anti-lock brakes, stab braking won't work because the wheels won't lock. Use controlled braking instead. Question number 180. With air brake equipped vehicles, the parking brakes should be used A. as little as possible, B. only during pre-trip and post-trip inspections, C. whenever you leave the vehicle unattended. The correct answer is here, C. whenever you leave the vehicle unattended. Explanation. Because air pressure can leak when you're away from your vehicle, it should be set with the parking brake to keep it from rolling. There is an exception to this rule. If the brakes are too hot or wet, use wheel chocks instead to avoid brake damage or freezing. Question number 181. How would you check your truck's slack adjusters? A. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and press the brake pedal. B. Park on an incline and see if the vehicle rolls. C. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and pull hard on each slack adjuster. It shouldn't move more than 1 inch. The correct answer is here, C. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and pull hard on each slack adjuster. It shouldn't move more than 1 inch. Explanation. To check the slack adjusters, try to pull on them manually while wearing gloves. If there is an inch or more of give, then there is an issue and they should be fixed. Question number 182. An emergency brake must be controlled by A. air pressure, B. gravity, C. mechanical force. The correct answer is here, C. mechanical force. Explanation. All trucks, truck tractors, and buses must be equipped with emergency brakes and parking brakes. Because air pressure can eventually leak away, emergency and parking brakes should be held on by mechanical force. Question number 183. The air loss rate for a straight truck or bus with the engine off and the brakes on should not be more than A. 3 C in 1 minute, B. 1 C in 1 minute, C. 2C in 45 seconds. The correct answers here. A. 3C in 1 minute. Explanation. When testing for an air leak, you should turn off the engine and hold the brake for 1 minute. The air pressure should not drop more than 3C in that 1 minute. Question number 184. To check the slack adjusters on S-cam drum brakes, you should first A. Park on level ground and drain off the air pressure. B. Park on level ground, chock the wheels, and release the parking brakes. C. Stop on level ground and apply the parking brakes. The correct answers here. B. Park on level ground, chock the wheels, and release the parking brakes. Explanation. Chock the wheels so you can release the parking brakes safely. Then put on gloves and pull hard on each slack adjuster you can reach. If it moves more than about 1 inch, it needs to be adjusted. Question number 185. Some air brake systems introduce alcohol into the system to A. Make the brakes work without squeaking. B. Prevent people from breathing the air from the system. C. Prevent ice from forming in the brake system. The correct answers here. C. Prevent ice from forming in the brake system. Explanation. Some air brake systems contain an alcohol evaporator. An evaporator introduces alcohol into the system to help inhibit the formation of ice in cold weather. Question number 186. Brakes can get out of adjustment quickly, especially A. in the winter time. B. if they are used frequently. C. if they are hot. The correct answers here. C. if they are hot. Explanation. Brakes are particularly prone to getting out of adjustment if they are hot. Be sure to routinely check the adjustment of your brakes. For a vehicle to be safely controlled, all brakes must be properly functioning and adjusted. Question number 187. If you're driving a vehicle with a front brake limiting valve, you should A. set it to slippery if you are driving on ice. B. always keep it on the slippery setting. C. always keep it on the normal setting. The correct answers here. C. always keep it on the normal setting. Explanation. Some older vehicles have a manually controlled front brake limiting valve to reduce air pressure to the front brakes when traveling on slippery roads. However, tests have since shown that front wheel braking is unlikely to cause a skid even on slippery roads, and reducing the air pressure reduces the vehicle's stopping power. Keep the front brake limiting valve on the normal setting at all times. Question number 188. Which vehicles must have low air pressure warning signals? A. only those built after 2010. B. none. C. all vehicles with air brakes currently in operation. D. only those built after 2005. The correct answers here. C. all vehicles with air brakes currently in operation. Explanation. All vehicles on the road that have air brakes must have low air pressure warning signal systems. Question number 189. What is the first thing you should do if the low air pressure warning comes on? A. stop. B. Upshift, C. Downshift. The correct answers here. A. Stop. Explanation. If the low air pressure warning comes on, there may be a leak in the system. Pull over and park your vehicle as soon as possible. If the air pressure drops too low, the spring brakes will come on automatically, which will stop your vehicle, but not necessarily in a safe way. Sudden application of the spring brakes while you're driving might result in a skid. Question number 190. Chocking the wheels, releasing the parking brake when there is enough pressure to do so, shutting the engine off, and then stepping on and off the brake pedal will test what emergency mechanism? A. The air compressor governor cut-in and cut-out pressures. B. The low pressure warning signal. C. The amount of pressure in the air brake system. D. The automatic activation of spring brakes. The correct answers here. D. The automatic activation of spring brakes. Explanation. Doing this should cause the parking brake knob to pop out when the air pressure falls to the manufacturer's specification, usually 20C to 40C. This will cause the spring brakes to come on. With the key switched off, the pressure warning signal will not operate.